All righty. So once again, we just had a few more of you join us. So welcome again to this morning's webinar session for Saphira Luxury Travel in Sri Lanka. So I'm really excited to share this information with you today. This is really a unique opportunity to connect with a fantastic partner that we work with in Sri Lanka. Um, the first part of our session today, I'm going to talk to you. In fact, most of the session today is really to share with you the luxury experiences that are available in Sri Lanka. Some of you may or may not be familiar with the destination in itself. So the purpose of this morning is also going to be really give you some destination knowledge. So when your clients are talking about where to go, Sri Lanka becomes one of your top of the list recommendations. So let's get started. I'm going to start probably pronouncing this incorrectly, but I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to firstly say to you, Ayubowan. And this is a traditional Sri Lankan welcome, which actually means, may you live a long life. So let me say that to you right from the beginning, Ayubowan. And apologies if I said the pronunciation slightly wrong there. So welcome. So today, as I mentioned, talking about the destination, we're going to focus on the hidden world of Sri Lanka luxury travel. As some of you may be aware, and we're going to showcase throughout this session, there is a lot of diversity within Sri Lanka itself, from the different landscapes. I mean, some of the scenery is just second to none anywhere in the world. The culture, and also the landmarks and the heritage that you can discover within Sri Lanka. So before talking about the destination, I'm going to share with you how to get there. We have a lot of you joining us today from the North American market. So I'm going to share firstly how to get there from those connections. And then the second part is obviously from anywhere in the world. So really, when you're coming from further afield and even from the UK and Europe as well, most of the time it is a two-stop destination. So you do have to stop in either Dubai or Doha, or if you're going from the West Coast, you would then go via Singapore. So you'd be going from either LAX or even from New York as well, going from the Pacific way around the world as opposed to the Atlantic and across Europe. So there's two different ways to get, two different directions, should I say, from North America to get to the first stop, which is the hub either in Dubai or in Doha. So if going via Doha, it's about a 15-hour flight, and Dubai's approximately 12 hours. But there is a lot of availability. So from New York, for example, you can see there's 35 flights per week that come from JFK. From LA, you've got 20 flights a week that fly over. So, and they all go from Dubai to Dubai and Doha. Singapore, again, as you'd expect from the West Coast, from LAX and San Francisco, there's 15 flights a week. And again, if you wanted to go in that direction via Singapore, you've also got 10 flights a week going from New York to Singapore directly. So there's lots of airlift that takes you to the main hub of the destination. So once you are in Dubai, Doha, or Singapore, you then have to get to Colombo. Colombo is the main international airport in Sri Lanka, which you can just see there on the west coast of the island. And to get from Dubai, it's only 4 hours. Doha is only 5 hours, and Singapore is only 4 hours as well. So really quick in the grand scheme of the travel distance. It's a really quick hop. But it does also mean that you have a great opportunity to have a twin center stay over in Dubai, Doha, or Singapore. And likewise, it's great for other destinations as twin centers as well, like the Maldives and various others, which I'm going to also talk to you about a little bit later on as we talk about how to actually get to the various different areas around Sri Lanka. There we go. So let me tell you a little bit about Sri Lanka as a destination. So their climate to start with. So the climate in Sri Lanka is It's very tropical, May to September, and it's different depending on where on the island you are going. So from the southwest, which is that Colombo area, the Yala National Park, which is a very popular tourist destination, May to September is the monsoon season, and December to March is the dry and the most popular season for the southwest. Going up to the northeast area, when you're looking at Jaffna and places like that, October to January is the monsoon season, with May to September being dry and sunny. So as you go round the country, it's very important to understand the different climate changes. So when you've got clients looking at different times of years, it's good to understand what that climate's going to be and where the best place to point them towards visiting would be. The central region, and we are going to talk a lot more about these regions and explain a lot more to you on these. The central region, the central hill area is higher, so it's much more elevated. So the climate is cooler, and you'll find places like Kandy here, which is again another tourist area, which we'll talk about later, which is very popular. And the weather is really all year round. So if you've got somebody who wants to avoid the different seasonality changes, the central region is a really good area to recommend to them. And then the west, so going onto the west coast, pretty much all year round, you have pretty good temperatures from about 25 to 30 degrees. So it's a really nice climate all year round. So central and west is really all year round areas, and the northeast, again, you can go all year round, even during the monsoon season. It's really pleasant, and it gives a whole different context to those regions. But just be conscious of the fact that it is going to be a little bit wetter than what it would be in the non-monsoon seasons. Okay. So the government in St. Lucia is very stable now. It's a semi-presidential republic, which basically means it has a president and a prime minister. And quite often we get asked the question about how stable is the government, is it safe, etc. And the answer to that is yes. It has been an independent for many years. Since 1978, it had the current constitution was adopted. So it's been quite some time, very well established. And because it has that semi-presidential republic, there's different political parties that are involved, and currently in power is the NPP, the National People's Power. So it's very stable, and the government is very proactive in Sri Lanka. The economy. So looking at the economy in Sri Lanka, tourism is obviously, as with most of these destinations, is a large part of the economy. It's a huge significant contributor to the GDP generally overall in Sri Lanka. Lots of agriculture. I mean, obviously it's Sri Lanka, so tea is obviously in that agricultural landscape there. Rubber, coconut, spices are all part of the exports of Sri Lanka. Minerals, and I'm going to talk a little bit later about this, but precious gems are known for being produced. 85% of the world's sapphires are actually produced in Sri Lanka, and I'm going to talk to you a bit later whereabouts in Sri Lanka those sapphire mines are. Textiles, clothing manufacturing, clothing and textiles is a huge part of the economy in Sri Lanka, as is many of the other areas. And the currency is the Sri Lankan rupee, which was introduced in 1872. And as you can see there on your screen, it's 295 to the dollar. So just to give you an idea on the conversion. So it's a different conversion there. So just some key facts to share with you about the general background of the country itself. The population is only 2.3 million, and unknown to many people, the capital city, the official capital city, is actually not Colombo, although it is the commercial capital city. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not going to try and pronounce that whole name because I can't. The main capital city, I have been told though, if you just call it Kote, then it's also a recognised way of pronouncing that name. So if anybody knows how to say that, kudos to you. But most people will consider Colombo as the main commercial capital city. The country itself is made up of 9 provinces, and we're going to go through in this session, we're going to go through all 9 of those provinces to show you the differences and what the different attractions are in each of those different areas. The majority of the ethnicity within Sri Lanka is Sinhalese, and obviously you do have the others, but the majority, 70 and 75% of the ethnicity in Sri Lanka is Sinhalese, and 70% from the religious perspective, 70% is Buddhism. But you do have, as you can see there, Hindu, Islam, and Christianity as well. So before going into the provinces and telling you more about the individual areas of Sri Lanka, I'm going to show you a short destination video to really try and immerse yourself in the mindset of what it's like to be in Sri Lanka, for those of you who haven't been before. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. So
Sri
welcome
Lanka.
to
You'll come back for more.
So welcome to Sri Lanka. I spoke over the last part of that video there. So hopefully that's given you a really good feel for the country itself, and the island is just so beautiful with so much to see. The biggest challenge I think you're going to have when you're trying to promote Sri Lanka to your clients is what to choose, because there really is just so much. So talking a little bit more about Sri Lanka, going into a bit more depth, it's often referred to as the pearl of the Indian Ocean. And that's not just because of the shape. If you look at the shape of Sri Lanka, it looks like a pearl drop. However, it's also because it's often referred to as the hidden treasure. So you think about where pearls are found and you have to find them, and you have to find them within the clamshells. The idea of Sri Lanka is it's a hidden gem. You have to discover it to actually really see the true value. It has a huge range of ecosystems. So the wide range of ecosystems brings with it a diversity of over 90 species of mammals. And it's home to 8 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, which is in itself very, very unique. Not many places in the world have so many World Heritage Sites. It's one of the world's largest tea producers, which I'm sure will come as no surprise to many of you. And it's been colonized 3 times before gaining its independence in 1948. So when we're looking at Sri Lanka, we are looking at, as I said, there's so many things to see, but it's not just about the nature and wildlife. The properties in Sri Lanka, yes, you do have your large chains. So you have the brand names that you all know and I'm sure are very familiar with. But I would also say in Sri Lanka, there is some amazing high-end accommodation that are independent, exclusive and private, exclusive resorts and private villas. So it's certainly got a huge range of diverse different types of accommodation to explore and to offer. Cultural experiences, as I'm sure you can imagine, is absolutely rich in the cultural diversity. And I mentioned before about the UNESCO heritage sites, and we're going to highlight a few in the sessions as we go around the provinces as well. Wellness. So Sri Lanka, India, that whole region is renowned for its wellness and spa retreats. Travelers can obviously experience these in very, very different ways. It's one of the homes to the Ayurvedic practices of preventative medicine. So it's great if you have any clients that are looking for that holistic wellness retreats, looking to go on a wellness journey. There's lots of holistic programs that can be participated in as well. Dining. So the gourmet dining within Sri Lanka is just absolutely amazing. I mean, I love food from all cultures. And one of the things that stands out to me from Sri Lankan food is the flavors. There is so many different. It's not the same as traditional Indian food. It has its own taste, its own flavors, its own spices. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend that if anybody is visiting Sri Lanka or has clients going to Sri Lanka, immerse yourself in the local food, the gourmet dining that's available, because it really can't be found anywhere else. And adventure. So adventure in Sri Lanka is huge. There's a lot of opportunities to go and explore from the private safaris, doing guided tours, seeing all the wildlife, the elephants, the leopards. And again, we're going to talk to you about the best regions for that. So in summary, that is the overview of Sri Lanka. So now let's talk about the different provinces. So we're going to go round the island now, because as I said before, this is really important to understand the different areas and different nuances of each of the provinces. So when you start off, we're going to start off on the left here on the western side. So this is the province which is the commercial hub. This is where Colombo is located. It's where the main capital of Sri Lanka would be. Moving into the central area. So, and remember to refer this back to the climates that I was talking to you before about the different climates around. So this is a more elevated area, much more mountainous, renowned for lots of the tea plantations are in this central region as well. The northwestern, so the northwestern is where the agriculture, lots of the coconuts and the seafood are produced on this in this province. And going up to the top here to the northern province, this is actually the third largest, but it's the least populated province. And it's rich in Tamil culture and history, because previously you were not actually allowed to go from a tourist perspective. You were not really allowed to go into this province. It was very much secured for the local communities. And it's only recently that they've actually allowed tourism to come up. So that's the reason why it's the least populated, because settlements weren't really allowed here, apart from within certain communities. But it does feature some amazing rainforests, and it's a really tropical part of the island right up in the north there. And then we go into the north central, which is the largest province by the physical landmass, by the area. It's also known as the dry zone, and I'm going to refer to that a few times later on in the session as well. And this is the dry zone, which boasts lots of agriculture, livestock, and various different ancient ruin sites, which is very popular from a tourism perspective. On the right-hand side, when we look on the eastern coast, well, as the name suggests, it's the eastern province, the diverse coastal region here. So this is also very strong in the religious sectors like the Sinhalese traditions, the Tamil traditions, the Muslim heritage. That's very strong along this coastal region. But the main popular coastal region for tourism is further down, which I'll come to in a second. You then going round. So the next province we have is Uva, and this is again another high altitude. You can see just from the image on your screen, you can see the mountainous textures. So it's another high altitude region, which means the climate is really quite cool. Um, but it's known for its really dramatic landscapes, the stunning waterfalls. So if you want to immerse in nature, this is a great place to go into the rainforest safaris, the dramatic landscapes for the views and photography. This is a really good area to recommend. And then right down in the south here on the southern province, this is where I was mentioning most of the traditional tourist resorts are, for example. This is the beach area. So if somebody's coming for that beach vacation here in Sri Lanka, this is probably the most popular place to come to, right on the southern tip of the Indian Ocean, just below. So this is a really good area to recommend for any of those beach holidays that people are looking for. Then the last province, and I always save this one to last when I'm talking about Sri Lanka because it's one of those provinces. Again, you look at all the other names of the provinces: Western, Central, Eastern, pretty self-explanatory. And then you have, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, this other province in the corner here, which is a very important province though, because it's where all the mining is happening. So this is where the sapphire mines are located, just in this province in Sri Lanka. So if you wanted to go on a gem experience, the sapphire mines are located here, and you can actually go into the sapphires, a bit like in certain places around the world where you can do gold mining. You can do sapphire mining here and go into the mines, and you can actually try and find your own sapphires in the mines here. So that's a really great experience to have if you're in that province or around that province or traveling through the province. It's a really great place to have that unique experience, which, as I said earlier, 85% of the whole world's sapphires are mined just here in this province of Sri Lanka. So now let's talk to you a bit about some experiences. So I mentioned before there is a lot of different experiences to explore in Sri Lanka. And this visual that you can see on your screen right now is really just to highlight the fact that they are all over the country. Everything from Colombo being the city, which is also a really great experience to have, up to Sigiriya Rock in the fortress, which you can see in the central region. You've got various right up the north as well. You can see you've got the caves at the top there, national parks. Really, anywhere in Sri Lanka, there is an experience to discover. And we're going to go through some of them in a bit more detail as well. So looking at attractions, so we just talked about some experiences, and we're going to now highlight just some of those attractions to you, which are popular tourist destinations. And some are not so popular, but are highly recommended. So the Sigiriya Rock Fortress is an area which is quite iconic to Sri Lanka. This is one of the images that you often see as a signature image of Sri Lanka. Interesting, this was actually built as an ancient fortress of a palace, and it was actually by one of the sons who killed the king. And he came to this rock fortress, or he built this rock fortress as a hideaway after he killed his father. And his other brother was trying to find him. And he actually got solitude in this rock fortress. So inside the actual rock itself is where there's lots of hidden areas where he was hiding away in this fortress, which is why it's a fortress. So the palace complex was built in the 5th century, as I said, in this huge rock formation. You can climb to the very top of this. You go through some gardens. It takes about 90 minutes to walk through the gardens at the base of the rock. And then you get to the stairway, which is guarded by 2 huge lion paws, which guard the guideway, the walkway, the stairs that you climb to get to the top of the rock. Looks pretty scary when you look at the height, but it actually is a really worthwhile adventure to go on to. The stairs are manageable, so they are graduated, and there's lots of areas to stop. But once you start, you can't really turn around and stop and come back down again because it's really quite narrow. So you can't really go up and down. You go up one way and down a different way, so you can't really just turn around. So once you're committed on that stairway, you're committed. But as I say, it is manageable. It takes about 2 to 2.5 hours, depending on how fast you go, to actually climb from the base of the stairs up to the very top. But when you do get to the top of the rock, the views are just stunning. You won't find them anywhere else in Sri Lanka. So if you feel you can do it, it's definitely worth doing. And this is one of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So the next point of interest, the next attraction that we want to highlight to you is an area which is known as one of the ancient capitals of Sri Lanka, and it showcases the ruins of various different structures. And the structures are all close together. So if you have a family, for example, or if you have somebody who doesn't really want to be walking for miles, but still wants to see the traditional heritage and the ruins of the ancient world of Sri Lanka, this is a really great place to go to because you have the opportunity to see lots of different versatile ruins and showcasing in one place. So there's loads of statues, royal palaces, temples, lots of different statues that you can find here. And as I say, it's another one of those UNESCO World Heritage Sites. And this is one of my favorite areas to highlight to you, Dambulla. Dambulla is actually one of the cave temples. There's many cave temples around Sri Lanka, and this is one of my favorites. In this area, it's just absolutely stunning. It's built into the rock face. It's often known as the Golden Temple. And it's a vast complex of integrated cave systems. So this is what you're seeing on your screen is just one of the cave systems, one of the cave temples, but within the whole architecture inside the rock face, you've got a whole network of different caves to explore. You can see all the artwork, the statues, and it's a very renowned Buddhist temple. So it's again another UNESCO World Heritage Site, but it's somewhere which is really quite fascinating to see. So it's certainly on the this is one of the tick list items that I would say you definitely have to go and have a look at. So the Temple of the Tooth Relic is actually a very sacred area of Sri Lanka. It's one of the most important Buddhist temples in the world. And people come from all over to visit this area. And they actually have a festival every year, and it's actually towards the end of the dry season it's actually coming up to the dry season, so it promotes rainfall, so it helps sort of keep agriculture. It's praying to the gods for the rainfall to keep the agriculture going and sustain everybody. This is located in the Kandy area. So if you imagine on the map, it's like in that north central area. And as I say, this temple, the festival every year is a major centre for everybody to come over for. So this is again a great area. The festival's in July and August, by the way. So so it's still not too late to try and get some places to come and see. And then from an attractions perspective, we want to highlight one of the national parks. There is lots of national parks within Sri Lanka. We also mentioned at the beginning Yala National Park, which is very popular. The Menaree National Park is actually quite significant because it's slightly different to the other national parks in the fact that it actually also has a water tank. So the actual reservoir is one of the only reservoirs in the north. And it's located in the north central province, which is where the dry season is, so the dry zone. So when we're in the dry zone, this is the only source of water for not just the animals, but also the local communities. So you cannot stay actually in the national park because it's protected, but you can around just on the outskirts of the national park. And it's a great place to go for seeing the elephants because, again, with the reservoir there, the tank, as it's called, it's a great area where you know that the animals are going to be because it's their main water source. But stunningly, it's one of the great national parks of Sri Lanka. You can also see the sanctuaries of the elephants, the deer, the leopards, and it's also one of the 70 in Sri Lanka. There's 70 areas that have been designated for bird watching, and this is one of the 70. They call it the 70 important bird areas of Sri Lanka, and this is one of them. So now we're going to talk a bit about the experiences. We've talked about the attractions, and now we're going to move on to some of the experiences. So we can't talk about Sri Lanka and not talk about the tea experience. So this is just one of the stunning tea plantations in Sri Lanka. It's one of the world's largest tea plantations. And the great thing is, obviously, we all know that the tea heritage comes from Sri Lanka. But the great thing is you can actually visit these plantations and you can go through and actually stay overnight on the plantations in one of their designated cottages, and you can do a harvest in the plantation. So you go out with the workers and you harvest your own tea, do that whole tea plucking experience. And then you can go into their areas and actually drink the tea that you've picked. And if you've never done this before, I have to say, when I've done this in the past, I love my tea. I'm British. I love my tea. But having tea freshly picked from the plantation is just, you just can't get anything like it. No matter how fresh you think your tea is, it tastes very, very different. And this is such an iconic heritage experience. So I would say there's a few things that are definitely on my tick list. This is one of them. So I'd make sure this is something which I strongly, strongly recommend if you're sending clients to Sri Lanka. And this is the scenic train journey. This is, again, another iconic picture image of Sri Lanka that you often see on their promotional material. And this is quite iconic for Sri Lanka in the fact that it's not just a way to travel. It's an experience in itself. The trains go from various different stopping points throughout the country. And if you're traveling around and exploring Sri Lanka, this is a great way. If you have the time and you can build this into the itineraries, this is a great way to see parts of Sri Lanka that you cannot see in any other way. The scenic train journey goes through parts of Sri Lanka like the rainforests, the tea plantations, the mountains, the coastal areas, and you just can't access these areas from road or any other way. So the only way to see these landscapes is on this scenic train journey. Um, Something that's asked quite a lot about this is, what's the quality of the trains? Are they local trains? And yes, they are, but they're also not. They do have the air-conditioned carriages. So I would certainly recommend booking seats in those carriages. Although saying that, because it is ticketed, so it's not overloaded, it is controlled. It is a great experience whether they're in that luxury aircon cabin or not, but I do strongly personally recommend going into the aircon cabin. It just makes it a little bit more comfortable, especially in the heat of Sri Lanka. So now we mentioned earlier about the exploration in Sri Lanka. There's a lot of things to explore. I mean, I've talked about some of the attractions and some of the experiences, but Sri Lanka in itself is a destination just waiting to be discovered. So if you have clients that are a little more adventurous and want to see a bit more authentic nature, hiking is a huge part of the Sri Lankan experiences, with the rainforests, the waterfalls, the rivers, the forest trails. There is so many guided and non-guided trails that can be followed. So I always recommend the guided if they're not used to exploring terrain like this. But there are some very simple non-guided trails that can be followed as well. So hiking is a really great way to explore the landscapes of Sri Lanka. Anybody looking for a little bit more of excitement, there is the whitewater rafting. They have rapids of all levels. They go from 1 to 5, which is the championship type of level of the rapids. Personally, going down the first 1 or 2 levels is fine for me. But if you have somebody a little bit more adventurous, there is whitewater rafting on the Kalani River, which is probably one of the best places to do the rafting. The cycling is another way of discovering Sri Lanka. There are cycling routes, and it's really a great way to go into the community, see the rural, authentic Sri Lanka. I do recommend these are guided just because the roads are Sri Lankan roads, which are all very good. They're very good infrastructure. But the driving rules, if you're not used to them, can sometimes be a little bit precarious. So I would say that a guided cycling tour is the way to go. And Saphira Luxury Travel have partners with people who do just cycling tours, so very specialist tours, depending on where they're looking for. So it's a really great way to So see the open in the open air, see a bit more of Sri Lanka's rural side. And the immersion of Sri Lankan culture, I feel, is a really important thing to highlight to you with regards to experiences in Sri Lanka. Because I mentioned earlier about the food. I mean, I've touched on that already, but it's really is something quite unique to the Sri Lankan taste, the flavors, the spices, and it really is some of the most traditional flavors of the region to explore. So certainly add that onto the itinerary list when you're creating them. And local experiences are really important. Local experiences can be anything from going into the local villages, and this is something which the team at Saphira are able to organise. And actually sitting down with the communities and talking to them about how do they make the bricks for their buildings, for example, because they do it in a very unique way. How is everyday to day life in a Sri Lankan community? And that's a really great way to understanding how the Sri Lankan lifestyle is traditionally. Something else which is very unique to Saphira Luxury Travel is a immersion into a tribal experiences. So within Sri Lanka itself, there's lots of individual tribes still that still exist. And so the team at Saphira and the owner at Saphira in particular has cultivated a relationship with one of the local tribes where you can actually go and spend the whole day and evening within the tribal community, which do not usually allow visitors to enter. And you can experience the real authentic tribal life. So this is everything from their day to day as well. But they also organise a traditional tribal dinner with them. So you can sit around the bonfire, you can talk to the tribal chiefs, and really just, I mean, it's such a unique experience, and nobody else can do this within the community. So that is certainly something which, if you have clients or if you're visiting yourself, is something which is really quite unique to experience. And then I've mentioned several times throughout the session about the wildlife. The wildlife is really something that's captivating in Sri Lanka with regards to not just the elephants and the leopards and the deers, but also on the water. Let's not forget that the island itself is located on the stunning Indian Ocean. So you also have the whale and dolphin watching, the fishing, and as I said, the elephants, leopards, the national parks, teeming with wildlife to be explored and seen. So traveling around Sri Lanka. So obviously we've talked about all the different areas and what to see and where to go. So now how do you get around? So how do you get to these places within Sri Lanka? So obviously one of the by car, by road is one of the main areas of transport, but there are also alternatives. So things like seaplanes, you can travel across the island from different destinations and locations by seaplane. So, for example, you can go from Colombo up to the Kandy region, which is in the central, or even up to the northern region. And you can do that by seaplane. So that cuts some time out of the journey. It's quick and it's a great experience. Helicopter transfers, again, very popular for the high-end clients coming to Sri Lanka. And to see Sri Lanka not just from the land is something quite special to see from the viewpoint of a helicopter or the seaplanes as well. Chauffeured luxury cars, you can self-drive in Sri Lanka. Obviously, there are car rentals that could be organised. However, I would strongly advise looking at the chauffeured cars. Having a guide taking you around just means that clients can really enjoy the experience without having to worry too much about the roads, especially if they're not used to it. So the luxury cars is a much more comfortable, convenient way to explore and get around. And then don't forget, it is an island, so you also have the access via water. So if you're in Colombo and want to go down to the southern region or anywhere, private yacht charters is also another unique way of getting around the island to see different parts of the destination. So I would certainly say that's something which, if you have boat lovers and you have water lovers, that transfer for getting around the island can also become a trip and excursion if they look at the private yacht charters. So it's a great way to see the island from the water as well. And I mentioned earlier about the location being perfect for twin centres and visiting other destinations. And one of the most popular twin centres, which Saphira Luxury Travel can also organise, is trips to the Maldives. The Maldives is a great destination. It's only an hour and a half if it's got a slow day. I've done Colombo to Malé in less than an hour before, so it depends on the tailwinds. It's a really easy, short hop down. And it's a great place to combine with Sri Lanka. Most people don't tend to think of Sri Lanka as a twin centre for the Maldives, but it is a perfect match. So it's certainly something, if you have clients coming to the region, it's certainly something to consider. And there's lots of different types of islands to visit, lots of different experiences that your clients, whether they're families, couples, multi-generational, there's also something in the Maldives that would be perfect for them as well. So in a nutshell, 45 minutes later, that is Sri Lanka. Now let me tell you, in the last few minutes, I want to talk to you about Saphira Luxury Travel, who is bringing you this session today and who we want to talk to you about as your key partner in Sri Lanka. So Saphira Luxury Travel are a DMC that have been in the market for over 20 years. They're very, very experienced. They're dedicated to luxury. They originated from Lanka Travels. So Lanka Holidays, you would have heard, you may have heard of. And Saphira Luxury Travel has really been created to diversify into that luxury landscape. So this is creating some of the more personalized itineraries, customizing the experiences to your clients as opposed to being packages, for example, that are set. And they also are able to provide access to places and experiences within Sri Lanka that nobody else can, just because of their relationship and how much they've built over the years. So some of the key reasons why to choose Saphira. The personalized experiences is key to everything thing they do. We understand, Saphira Luxury Travel understands that they have to develop an itinerary that are personalized to each and every client. Every person is different, so why should their experiences be the same as others? It's all about making sure that the perfect itinerary is curated for you. And that leads into the attention to detail. They also are, again, the experience speaks for itself. They understand the things that are needed to be considered, the services that are needed, and trying to make sure that from your perspective as a travel advisor, your life is as easy as well, because they're giving you that attention to detail so you are not having to. so you can give the information, but Saphira will make sure that it's delivered. The exclusive access I just mentioned about making sure that they can also deliver experiences that nobody else can, in terms of things like the experiences, the partnerships, and really giving you that sense of exclusivity. So when you're talking to your clients, you can offer them things that nobody else is going to be able to offer. The tribal tour, for example, is just one example of that. The guidance. So again, if you're not familiar with the destination or your clients are not sure what they're looking for, they're able to guide you. The team at Saphira Luxury Travel are able to guide you, give you recommendations. So when you're speaking to your clients, they can help give that, you can help give that guidance to them. They're also really happy if you wanted to have three-way conversations with your clients and them, to talk to them in person as your partner. So they don't have a problem with doing that either if it helps you. And that leads on to the stress-free planning. Everything that is being done is there to support you, is to make your planning process for your clients and for you as seamless and as easy as possible. And they also understand unparalleled luxury. So we all know that the luxury clientele are very discerning. They sometimes know what they want, sometimes not so much. But we also understand that that clientele, the high net worth clientele that we're speaking about with these travel experiences, have a certain expectation. And this is understood by the whole team at Saphira Luxury Travel. They get it. They understand what that luxury experience is. Those attention to details, the seamless planning, the follow-up, and also for you, making sure that you have somebody actually in destination looking after your clients that you know, you trust, and can make sure that everything is as seamless as possible. They also become your client's contact when they're on island and they're in the destination. So they can help with any immediate access, which due to time zones and various other elements means that sometimes it's a lot easier. So they are basically an extension of you, and supporting you for your clients. So that is Saphira. I'm just going to finish off now. Many of you I can see are already part of our travel advisor portal, but I mentioned at the beginning. So a copy of this information that I've shown you today, as well as information on rates. We're potentially looking at doing a fam trip later in the year. All of those things, any events that we're attending, all of that information is on our travel advisor portal. So if you haven't signed up already, please go to the website and there's a section on there that says travel advisors, and just pop your details in there, and that will give you access to the exclusive travel advisor portal, where lots more information on both Saphira Luxury Travel and also our other partners in our collections you can access from there. So thank you so much. I'm now just going to say, I can see some questions have come in. So I am just going to go to your Q&A. So if you have any other questions, please put them in the Q&A and let me just go through them now for you. Give me 1 second. Okay. So, Randy, great question. For a first-time traveller to Sri Lanka, what is the approximate amount of days to travel? It really depends on the type of experience that your clients are looking for. If they want to explore everywhere, then you would probably be looking at a 10 to 14-day itinerary. If they're looking at a specific type of experience and trying to be a bit more refined with the itinerary planning, then you can do Sri Lanka quite comfortably in 5 to 7 days. Again, depends on where they're coming from. Quite often what we find is the average stay is between 7 and 8 days, for particular focuses. So, but itineraries can be planned for any amount of days. You can, if you wanted to have a bit of a day, just a taster for the destination, you can do that in 5 days, and you can see a few of the different areas, and itineraries can be put together for that as well. So, Randy, I agree. The travel experience is absolutely amazing, and as I said, nobody else can deliver that. So, it really is a must do when visiting. So, okay. Next question about, is English spoken in the country? Absolutely. So yes, Loanne, definitely English is widely spoken. The communication is very easy. So yeah, so that's communications is never an issue. Usually not an issue. So yeah, there's plenty of flights, as I mentioned before. I'm just going to quickly flick back just to show you that. Plenty of flights out from New York. So when you look at the flights from New York, you've got 35 flights per week coming out of JFK. And obviously, if they wanted to go from the other destinations, you also have flights out from LAX, San Francisco, and Boston. And that's just to name a few. There are other destinations that come out via Dubai and Doha. And then looking at from there, you've then got that short transit across from Dubai, Doha, or Singapore, into Colombo, which is only another 4 hours. You could do an overnight in Dubai, Doha, Singapore, and they could have a break. Timings are usually pretty good, though. I mean, every time I've flown over, I've flown several times from New York myself, and every single time the connections are really good because there's so many flights. You're usually only, if you're transiting, you're usually only transiting for maybe an hour and a half, before you're on your flights up to Colombo. Okay. A couple of other questions. Good question. Travel agent commission. Yes, there is commission available. So if you are booking on behalf of your clients, it's anything from 10 to 15%, depending on what the experience is. So when you come to us with your inquiries, we can actually look at that for you, but it's always between 10 to 15%. So commission's no problem at all. No, they're not actually part of Virtuoso as yet. As I mentioned earlier, even though Lanka Holidays has been trading for over 20 years and experiencing the destination, Saphira Luxury Travel has only really been launched this year for that luxury definition of that luxury travel. So that is something which we'll be working towards, and we already are. So hopefully within the next year, we will be part of that. But at the moment, if you are a Virtuoso agent, which I can see many of you are, and you're looking for your amenities or any other of the consortias, they will also be honoured as well. So if you let us know that on your inquiry, we can make sure that they're included for your clients so nobody misses out. The Travel Advisor portal, I'll just flick back to that screen. So the Travel Advisor portal can be found on our website. If you just go to hummingbird-consultancy.com, there is a section in the top right-hand corner that just says Travel Advisors. Click on there, create your account, and then that gives you access to the travel agent area of the website, and that gives you some exclusive downloads. They also have further information on our standard collections as well. So that's on this area here. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, feel free if you think of anything later. If you have any questions later on that you feel that you've missed and haven't asked, you've got my contact list. They're on your screen there, but you also have them on our registration details. So feel free to contact us. I will also be sending out to you all individually a link to a questionnaire. So it's always great to get your feedback on our webinars because it helps us learn and improve the information that we give you. So please do take just 2 minutes. It's a very short questionnaire just to fill that out for me. I will also give you introduction contact details to the owner of Saphira Luxury Travel, a gentleman called Pribuddha, and I will give you their direct contact details as well. But in the meantime, if there's anything else or if you have any questions, inquiries, any information that you need, please do make sure you reach out to us. Thank you again for all your time. I really appreciate you taking your time to sit with us today, and look forward to welcoming all your clients to Sri Lanka in the future. Thank you again, everybody, and have a wonderful day ahead. Take care. Bye-bye.